Okay, we've learned almost everything we need to know about the basics of fractions, but there's one more thing I want to tell you about, and that's mixed numbers. Sounds pretty exciting, doesn't it? To help you understand what mixed numbers are, let's look at the number line we used in the last section. Remember, there's two main kinds of fractions. Proper fractions, where the top number is smaller than the bottom number, and improper fractions, where the top number is bigger than the bottom number. Now, some of you might be wondering, why is the improper fractions region so much bigger than the proper fractions region? Why are there so many more improper fractions? The reason is that improper fractions are really a combination or a mixture of two different things. Lately, we've been focusing on the fractions on our number line, but don't forget, the number line can count whole numbers too. Let's say we want to use our number line like a ruler to measure how long something is. Let's start with something short like this rectangle here. Now this one is less than 1, so we can use a simple proper fraction like this. Now let's measure a rectangle that's a little longer. Well look, this one lines up exactly with 1. So that's easy. We don't even need a fraction for this one. Its length is just the number 1. And now let's measure a rectangle that's even longer. Now this one falls somewhere between the whole numbers 1 and 2. To write its length, we're going to need the number 1 plus a little bit more. So that means we're going to need a whole number and a fraction. To figure out what that fraction will be, notice that the space between the 0 and the 1 is the exact same length as the space between the 1 and the 2. That means if we divide the space between 1 and 2 into fractions, they'll be the same as the fractions between 0 and 1, the proper fractions. So this rectangle is 1/2 long, and this rectangle is 1½ long. It's like the proper fraction region is repeated between any two whole numbers. So while our number line counts whole numbers, in between each whole number, it also counts proper fractions. But wait a minute, if there's a whole bunch of proper fractions out here in between the whole numbers, then why have we been calling this the improper fraction region? Well, it's because improper fractions are formed by combining a whole number with a proper fraction, but the whole number part is hidden in the fraction. Starting at 0, you can count up through the proper fractions, but once you pass 1, they're called improper fractions because there's a whole number part hidden in the fraction. As always, a few examples will help this make sense. The improper fraction 3/2 is right here on the number line. That means that it's just the combination of the whole number 1 and the proper fraction 1/2. The improper fraction 4/3 is right here on the number line. That means that it's just the combination of the whole number 1 and the proper fraction 1/3. The improper fraction 9/4 would be right here on the number line. That means that it's just the combination of the whole number 2 and the proper fraction 1/4. Alright then, if an improper fraction is really just a combination of a whole number and a proper fraction, then why don't we write it like that? Well, we can. When we write an improper fraction as a combination of a whole number and a proper fraction, we call it a mixed number. A mixed number looks like this. The whole number part comes first, and then the fraction part comes right after it, a little bit smaller. And when you read a number like this, you say 1½ You say the and because it really is like you're adding 1 to 1/2, but you don't have to show the plus sign. Now that we know that a mixed number is another way of writing an improper fraction, we're going to learn how to convert back and forth between those two forms. Let's start by learning the procedure for taking a mixed number and rewriting it as an improper fraction. Now there's a few different ways you can do it, but I'm just going to show you the quickest way. Here's the first improper fraction we're going to rewrite, 3½ Now we know that our answer is going to be an improper fraction, so let's go ahead and write the fraction division line. The bottom number of our answer is easy. It's just the bottom number of the fraction from our mixed number, in this case 2. To get the answer's top number, we need to do 2 steps. First, we need to multiply the bottom number of the fraction, 2, by the whole number part, which is 3. So 2 times 3 gives us 6. Next, we take that 6 and add it to the top number of our fraction, which is 1. So 6 plus 1 equals 7, and that's the top number of our improper fraction. So 3½ is the same as 7/2. Let's try one more to make sure you've got it. Here's 7 3/8. Now we know that our answer will be a fraction with 8 on the bottom. Now for the top, we take 8 and multiply it by 7, and that gives us 56. And we take that 56 and add it to 3, and that gives us 59. So 59/8 is the same as 7 3/8. That wasn't so hard, was it? Now that you know how to do that, let's try going the other way. Let's start with an improper fraction and rewrite it as a mixed number. Let's start by working our first example in reverse. Let's try to write 7 over 2 as a mixed number. Now to do this, we'll also need 2 steps. The first step is to see how many times the bottom number of our fraction will divide into the top number. And 2 goes into 7 3 times with a remainder of 1. So that tells us that the whole number part of our mixed number will be 3. The next step is to find out what the fraction part of our mixed number will be. The bottom number will be the same as the bottom number of our improper fraction, 2. And the top number will just be the remainder we got when we divided, 1. There, we changed the improper fraction, 7 over 2, back into the mixed number, 3.5. So we can see that it works both ways. Let's try one last example. Let's write 22 over 5 as a mixed number. Again, the first step is to see how many times the bottom number divides into the top number. In this case, 5 goes into 22 4 times with a remainder of 2. So we know that the whole number part of our answer will be 4. Now for the fraction part. The bottom number will be the same as the bottom number of our improper fraction, 5. And the top number will be our remainder, 2. So 22 over 5 is the same as 4 2/5. Alright, so mixed numbers are really just another way of writing improper fractions. And it's a good idea to know how to convert them back and forth because it makes some math problems easier. And besides, your teacher's going to make you do it anyway. Let's take a minute to review what we covered. Improper fractions are really a combination of a whole number and a proper fraction. The whole number is sort of hidden in the fraction. If we write out the improper fraction as a whole number and a proper fraction, then we call it a mixed number because it's a mixture of 2 different kinds of numbers. We can convert back and forth between improper fractions and mixed numbers since they're just 2 different ways of writing the same value. The procedure to go from a mixed number to an improper fraction is to multiply the bottom number by the whole number and then add that result to the top number. That gives you the top number of the answer, and the bottom number is just the same as the first bottom number. To go from an improper fraction to a mixed number, we have to find out what whole number is hidden in the fraction by dividing. The answer of the division is the whole number part. The remainder of the division is the top number of the answer, while the bottom number is just the bottom number of the original fraction. Now these procedures for converting mixed numbers can take a lot of practice, so be sure to do the exercises.